With the 𝗕𝗲𝗄 hard fork only 9 days away, are we seeing some crazy FOMO before the actual event? In this video, guys, we're going to dive down into the world of Cardano, take a look at the recent price action, and give you my thoughts and opinions on what I think is likely to happen next. As I get into this video, if you find it useful and informative, hit the like button. I really do appreciate that. If you happen to be new to the channel, then why not go ahead and subscribe, tap the bell, select all notifications, and in doing so, you will be kept up to date with absolutely everything that we do here at Cheeky Crypto. Now, if you haven't yet joined us in Discord, link is in the description down below. It's a fantastic community talking crypto 24/7. It's completely free, and I don't think you'll be disappointed by what you find down there. We've also recently launched a new podcast on YouTube, on Spotify, and on Apple as well. So links to that is in the description down below, also in our Discord server. So why not check that out if you're looking for something that's a bit easy listening whilst you're in the car driving to the office. Guys, let's waste no more time though. Let's jump right down into this, right? Cardano paired up with USDT on the hourly chart, and Binance is the data source. And what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the recent kind of moves here. So we have seen that we were tracking a 5-wave structure to the downside, and we were looking at this potentially as maybe a diagonal that's ending here, or maybe it is something totally different. Now, I think actually, based on everything that's going on with Cardano, it's probably better to kind of look at this and reflect on all of these moves as a correction that is still ongoing, okay? So what I'm going to do is, based on the invalidations that we've been having here with these wave 4s, I'm going to remove these structures, and instead what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark these up as to what they actually are, which will be a WXY just down here, okay? And you've got a couple of options. We could leave it down here, it'd save ourselves doing all the micro counts, or we can add on all the micro counts as well. I think for the most part, we'll just pop it down there, and that can kind of mark the end of that one. Now, what's important about this is basically we've got a 3-wave structure that took us from 40 cent up to, I think it was like 68 cent. Yeah, 68 cent. And then we've pulled from 68 cent down to this local low of about 42 cent. Okay, so again, we haven't broken lower than the 40 cent range. Then, of course, what this could mean, if I tidy these up and just remove them all together, and we're taking a bit of a macro view, let's jump this up into the 4-hourly chart here. Okay, on the 4-hourly chart, we could be looking at that one bullish sentiment that I've been talking about in the last few videos, which is a giant WXY, and that particular play would only be valid for the lead up to the hard fork event. So I still think this is a long shot. It's a long way to go, and I don't think we have the right sentiment or the price momentum to kind of come up there. So although this is a possible scenario, I think this is a bit of a wild card. Okay, so we'll keep it in the back of our heads as a potential move, just in case it does actually play out. And the target for this, based on this recent low, would actually be 72.16. Okay, so that would actually be the level that we would be looking for to complete on this. Let me just mark that up there, and it comes in at 72.16 cent. Okay, so that just that dash line there. I'll remove this fib and I'll leave that as one potential scenario. I do think, however, we are in some kind of corrective move here, which is actually going to lead us into a significant drop to the downside. Now, it's not following Cardano ADA. It is not following the very specifics of what we are seeing with other cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin or many of the other altcoins, where they have the structure that is indicating a good move to the downside through impulsive structures like 5-wave moves. Here in Cardano, we've just got corrective patterns, and what we've got is basically this little sideways section here. This would potentially be if a B wave, for example, I'll use the ABC structures for this, so keep it different from the WXYs. But basically, we have like an A wave drop down here. We then have this potential kind of bounce up and then a pullback down. Now, the 1-to-1 ratio with this is indicating at the moment 22.2 cent, right? So even if we have this short-term bullish sentiment right now, and by some miracle we're able to push up to 72.16, then there's still plenty of room to the downside to be had. I still think it's that wild card is a long shot, and we still have our local high of 68.9 as potentially our B wave high, and that is what is indicating at the moment 22.2 22 cents. So regardless of whether we push up or not, there's so many more scenarios to the downside for Cardano. So this is why if you're in our Discord, you're a Patreon member, you haven't seen my buy alerts for Cardano yet. It is on my shopping list, but I'm not paying these prices for it. I think there's significantly lower prices to kind of jump in on Cardano personally. And this is one of the main reasons that we like the bear market so much. I know we get called out as moon boys a lot during the kind of bullish sentiments and the bullish kind of times. And we do talk a lot about price predictions and kind of areas that we think are points of interest, but essentially it's the bear markets where the money is made, and this is something we've been talking about for a very, very long time. So we do like a bear market, and we do like these low potential moves, and we do like to accumulate massive positions whilst you're at these kind of, you know, rock bottom prices. So there's no guarantee, of course, as I said this previously, of moving down to 22 cent, but it is definitely a scenario that is possible at this stage, and we cannot ignore it, not until we've moved up at least past $1.24 in a really significant way, and I can't see that happening anytime soon. So it's important that we kind of reflect on this and really think about where things are going, okay? But what I am going to do, okay, I'm going to leave that as it is, and I'm going to jump down into our hourly chart here for a second, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the Stochastic Rsi, because I know that, you know, I talk about a lot of things, I talk quite fast, and maybe some of this stuff is new to you guys. You're not really familiar with Elliott wave theory overly, etc. But I do want to kind of just really illustrate a couple of key things here when it comes to these price movements, okay? And we're going to use the Stochastic Rsi to help us understand this, okay? So we can see that we have a local high here and a local bottom here, okay? Essentially, we were overbought on the stochastic at that point, and we're oversold on the stochastic at this point. Right now, we are overbought, okay? We were also overbought just here, okay? And you can see that the sentiment was to basically pump the price yesterday, okay? So, and the price was being pumped up yesterday. There was lots of FOMO, fear of missing out. There was a pullback, we'll buy it, and we'll send it up a little bit higher. So what we're thinking here is that we've got a couple of options. We're either going to continue this growth to the upside on this hourly chart, or alternatively, we've reached the top and we're going to now start to pull back down in a really significant way. Okay, all of these are very valid options. So let me show you wave counts on this. Okay, so we have the pullback, we have the bounce, and then we pull back down again. Okay, now it's possible that this turns into a 5-wave structure. It's possible that it does lots of different things, and we won't speculate too much on that. The initial kind of target that this particular account would allow us to kind of indicate, if I grab hold of this and pull it up to here, this would actually show us moving down to 39.2. Now 39.2 would put us down lower than this particular low over here, and would actually indicate a much bigger move to the downside and support our narrative of our leading or ending diagonal. Okay, so we want to kind of really come into thinking about what that might mean slightly longer term. It would also mean that it would invalidate the 72.16 cent range. Okay, and that's really possible just because of the momentum and the indication there. If I throw the volume on here, in fact, what I might do is I might actually have to see if I can move the move to the pane below. Let me get the volume down here, right? So here you can see the volume, okay, that is basically you know, associated with these price movements. So you can see there's a little bit of a push up in the last few hours, and the volume is dying down as the price is pulling back. So it would be interesting to see how fast this Stochastic Rsi can move down without doing too much damage to the price, okay? And then that would allow us for that bullish sentiment, and actually we would be looking at that upward directional move that we're talking about, right? That 72.16. However, let's jump over to the 4-hourly chart. The 4-hourly chart, and then we'll zoom in again on these recent kind of candles right here. Okay, again, we have that narrative, that move to the downside, and again, we're overbought on this 4-hourly chart. So again, we have this move and a 3-wave structure, which is a corrective structure. It's still indicating 39.22. Could be a double bottom, guys, as well. That's another scenario. Bullish sentiment, that would be. That would take us up to 72, possibly. But yeah, for the most part, you see a little bit of pocket of volume here. But otherwise, actually, when you review this volume, what do you see? You just see volume that is decreasing across the hours here. You're not seeing increasing in volume, which means the sentiment isn't necessarily there to buy. And instead, this could all be fake pump to kind of get you, get the FOMO kicking in. And actually, all you're really going to do is pull back down in a significant way. And again, you see here when we had the volume going up as the price was dropping down. That's what you want to watch out for here, as that would indicate much deeper downside action. Okay, but obviously we're overbought, so when things are overbought they do pull back. So having the stochastic RSI indicating it up here above 80 is indicating to us that we are likely to see some downward action. Again, this is aligned to our hourly chart, and we jump up to the next time frame, which is the 8-hour chart. You can see this is actually still progressing a little bit higher, and here you can see that we pull back, we have the bounce. Now the interesting thing about this is you have an increase in volume, okay, when you're pulling down, and then the volume is decreased as the price is pushed up. Okay, this is basically telling you that people are not necessarily wanting to buy here, and this could be a fake pump. The alternate, and obviously the other thing to kind of acknowledge here is the stochastic RSI is almost overbought, which means you're overbought on the hourly, you're overbought on the 4-hourly, almost overbought on the 8-hourly. Last time you were up here, you could see that actually we started to see this decrease in price. So the downward potential here is quite high in comparison to the upward directional moves. But obviously we have to acknowledge that there are two different ways this thing can go. There's the wild card, as I said, to move to 72 cent, but the highest probability in my eyes is that we continue this motion to the downside, and by dropping down lower than 40.1, essentially what that's going to do is allow us to really indicate that we are in that kind of potential leading diagonal move to the downside, and this corrective move is now really kicking into gear, and we could be talking about, you know, those lows of around 22 cent. So I'm going to remove the volume. I'm actually going to go ahead and basically just move this back to the pane above, and then just turn that off so we don't have to see the volume there. So yeah, so that's kind of what's going on from a stochastic RSI and a volume perspective, right? We can see that although there's movement to the upside here, it's quite limited. It isn't great. It's not looking very good. And now, of course, we can acknowledge, if we bring that stochastic RSI back up here, what actually is going on. Well, we've got basically, you know, downward price action, okay, on the macro side here. We can see this. Let me grab hold of my trend line. We can see that we've got this downward directional move, and again, you know, if you wanted to, you could draw these trend lines out as much as you want. You can see that you're moving down. Now, of course, we can take the low point just down over here as well, and draw this up as a triangular wedge shape pattern, right? We could acknowledge that there's a kind of triangular pattern in here as well. Essentially, this is going to come to a point where eventually it's going to either collapse down or move up. Now, on my macro count would tell me that we are likely to move on down. Here on this 8-hourly chart, you can see that we've been tracking from $3.10 down here in a very similar move. We have this giant A, B, little bounce for B. I was expecting that to go higher, to be fair, and we then pulled back down. But also on that note, guys, those B waves are unpredictable. They're very sporadic. They can do pretty much anything. There's no rules really around them, so you have to watch out for B waves. They can catch you off guard a little bit, with the exception of an Elliott wave triangle. But for the most part, what have you got going on after that B wave is a C wave that goes down to 22 cent, right? And what you've got here is, again, a bounce and then another pullback. So if you think about this entire structure, you've got a micro count that's doing the same thing. It's basically a subwave count of that. And if I draw one up on this earlier time frame here, you can kind of see that we reached this low, we bounced, and then we pull back down. And here you could actually argue that the bounce was probably actually this one right here in the middle, right? So we had that and we fell short, right? So there's no guarantee that you go for a 1-to-1 ratio. 22 cent is a bit of an extreme target. This is why I've been saying, you know, 28 to 34 cents is probably a good place to really be considering things. But again, here you have that wave B and then potential C, right? So you have all of your subwave counting going on inside your macro counts, and everything is indicating a move to the downside. Now, the daily stochastic RSI is just outside of the oversold area, so it can come back down into that oversold area. It does not indicate to us that we are moving on up, specifically with the smaller time frames being overbought like that. It can, of course, move up, and it can, of course, continue to grow, which is why you cannot just use the stochastic RSI in isolation to anything else. But for the most part, we should be concerned with necessarily thinking that the bottom is in. I do not think the Cardano bottom is in. I do not think the Bitcoin bottom is in. I don't think the Ethereum, VeChain, Harmony, any of them. I think they've all got a lot more room to go down. That being said, though, it is never a bad idea to dollar cost average, slowly start to build those positions, specifically if you're below 90% from the previous all-time high. This is a really good strategy for many retail investors. Now, I'm not a financial advisor. I cannot give you financial advice, and nothing I say and do in these videos should be considered financial advice. All I can do is give you my thoughts, opinions on the charts, on the data as I see it inside of these charts, right? So I'm going to leave the video there, guys. I've kind of gone through a lot of reasons as to why I think, we are likely to see a little bit deeper here for Cardano's ADA. And there is still that one wild card that could potentially take us up towards 72 cent. And it's a fantastic one if it happens, but I would still expect downside action afterwards, even if that did happen. There is no reason to think that this bottom is in just yet. And I do think we have a little bit more room to the downside to come first. Guys, if you found this useful and informative, hit the like button. I really do appreciate that. If you happen to be new to the channel, then why not go ahead and subscribe, tap the bell, select all notifications, and in doing so, you will be kept up to date with absolutely everything that we do here at Cheeky Crypto. With all that said, done and out of the way, I hope everyone has a fantastic day, and I'll catch you all in the next one.